Welcome to Hanging with the Hammer. Roll the intro. Welcome to Hanging with the Hammer. Good morning, Adam Parsons. You're the first one in, and you were in a minute early, so thank you for being here. This is the show where your questions make the show, and when I don't have questions, we don't really have much of a show. I did work on a little bit of something for the beginning. I thought I would start by talking about effect symbols and my newest addition to my Peisty collection that happened in the last couple weeks and starting to show up in my videos now. So that's where we're going to start today. I've had a fascination with, good morning, Double Deuce Drums, Chadwick, nice to see you today. I've had this fascination with the kind of the funky China-ish sound for a long time. And I've always had a China in my, on my kit at all times. For many years, it was always 4 kits, 2 crashes, a ride, and a China with the hi-hats. So it was like 4 separate cymbals in the hi-hats. Over the last couple years, it's more likely I'll have a ride and 2 crashes, and the China is like an addition some of the time. But for the longest time in my career, I always had a China around. And I remember in 2000 when Dave Weckl created the Evolution series of cymbals for Sabian. I was playing Sabian a lot at that point in time. And when I started playing Sabian cymbals, and hi Marty, welcome to the show. Your questions make the show, guys. So when I started playing Sabian cymbals, I thought I really want one of these effect cymbals. And for the longest time, I wanted one of these effect cymbals, and I didn't get one. I never bought it. I would buy other things or not buy anything. For a couple years there, I really wasn't buying a lot of cymbals. Kind of had the cymbals I had. And then all of a sudden, one day, a friend of mine came to my studio and needed to use the studio for a video shoot, and he gave me a cymbal. So I'm going to show you that cymbal. And this is the famous Swiss Peisty, I call it. It's actually a signature fast crash 17-inch that he had cracked somewhere in one of the big holes he cracked, and somebody in town drilled all the holes. So I got one of these, and I thought, cool, I have one of these cymbals now, and I didn't really need one. And I didn't really like it as much as the China, and it didn't sound as nice as the Evolution, but I didn't want to go out and buy one now that I had one. And since 2000, I guess 10 or 11, I've been using this as been my effects cymbal crash. I occasionally pull it up, not very often. So a couple weeks ago, I got a little bug in me. I don't know what happened. I guess some money from teaching lessons. And when I make money that's my money from the studio, I usually put it towards something stupid. So I just bought heads recently, and I just bought that 18-inch crash, 2002 crash, and I just bought the 22-inch ride, and I just bought the bottom, 2000 sound edge hi-hat, and I'm thinking to myself, what can I dump some money on? And I looked up the PSTX crash cymbal that Vinny Colaiuta used, and he used a medium 20-inch PSTX crash, and that's what I ended up buying. So that's the crazy Swiss cymbal I've been using lately. So let me show you that one in all its glory. PSTX. I don't know if it says 20-inch at the top. Medium Swiss crash. Apparently, they're making the thins now more than the mediums, I believe. So the mediums have kind of gone out of vogue, so to speak. But anyhow, that's where I started. So I've been enjoying it. It's a different thing than a China. I will say Peisty makes some great Chinas. So check out the Peisty Chinas. And one of my favorite China these days is my 18-inch 2002 that my same friend, Steve Dupree, who gave me that other Swiss crash, we traded a cymbal back and forth for that Peisty China over there. So let me show you that. Since it's show and tell day, until you guys ask a question, and hello, Jim. Jim Flies 2's on, and Eric's on. So this is the China type 2002, and this is from actually 1984. Steve had this for a long time, and it was just sitting in his garage one day. He said, I think you'll enjoy this more. And he gave it to me, and I said, well, listen, I got a crash cymbal for you. and I gave him a 17-inch thin actually a Zildjian. It was a Zildjian Crash I gave to him. So we made it more of a trade, but he just handed this one to me. I dig this cymbal a lot. I actually like playing this one this way instead upside down. Something about the upside down doesn't sound as cool to me as playing it the way it's supposed to be played, I guess. So anyhow, you guys got any questions today? Adam and Chadwick and Marty and Jim and Eric, any questions you guys got for me will make the show go a different direction. So that's my little show and tell I put for the front end of this. I've got 7 guys out there. Thank you all for being here today. Last week, Jim was on the show. That was an amazing show. We really got into talking about gigs and working in the real world in the 80s and 80s and 90s and 2000s and today. So it's really cool. Let's see what Chadwick had to say. The thinner FX are more trashy, lower pitch, like a China, and can be mounted closer to a mic. That's probably correct. And I thought about going for a thinner one, but I thought that little 17 was kind of thin. So I was looking for something a little different. This one you can actually ride on. And I actually have a video where I'm riding on that cymbal. It hasn't come out yet. It's a Chicago tune I did. I'm trying to think what the name of it is. Rediscovery is the name of the song. I think it's from Chicago 6. And it's just sitting in my folder waiting to be used. But it was really an interesting sound to ride on it. You know what I mean? As long as you didn't hit the hole, you were kind of cool. But it did kind of work. You also have another question, Chad. Was it expensive? In actuality, it wasn't that expensive for a 20-inch cymbal. It was about $170. So I was actually looking at a 19-inch 2002 Crash. I also looked at a Big Beat 19-inch. I was looking at a bunch of things, but I ended up buying this. I was looking at the smaller ones. I was actually looking at the ones that Daru Jones plays. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Daru Jones, but if you want to see a guy who plays completely different than anybody else in the world, watch Daru Jones. Daru Jones is a Paiste endorser, and he plays with all his drums like this kind of angle, and his toms down at the floor. It's really a very strange setup. I don't know how he plays it, but that's how he plays. And he had a set of these Paiste PSTX cymbals made for him. And there's 2 14-inch ride crashes, and then a set of hats. And you can actually interchange them all. They're relatively cheap. They probably would have cost me around the same price as buying this 20-inch, to be honest, for the set. They're not very expensive at all. They sound very interesting. So that's a good way of putting it. Keith, welcome, Keith, today. Good morning. Welcome, Eric. Interesting idea, riding on a China. Well, riding on a China, Eric, that is a old jazz drummer thing. I don't know if you guys realize that, but the China cymbals initially was that darker sounding ride cymbal sound, and a lot of jazzers always had a ride cymbal, a China cymbal to ride on. Mel Lewis, to this day, Jeff Hamilton plays a 22-inch China, big China, to get that ride sound. Peter Erskine does the same thing. So riding on a China is kind of a jazzer thing to do, really is. We think of it, a lot of rock guys only think of it as an upturned, upside down, bang on it thing, like get the corner like Billy Cobham did. But we don't realize that Billy Cobham was a jazzer too when he did that. He was just turning music on its side. The 70s brought us fusion music, and fusion music was jazz and rock coming together. It really came together with Mahavishnu Orchestra and Weather Report, excuse me, and Miles Davis Bitches Brew, which is an album you wanna listen to sometime if you really want to hear the beginning of fusion. And of course, Tony Williams' Emergency album. Tony Williams was the drummer for Miles Davis, and he put together this group that had John McLaughlin in it, who ended up taking Mahavishnu Orchestra. And Tony was way ahead. Tony was way ahead of everybody. So amazing times of music. But Billy Cobham was the first guy I remembered really turning the China upside down and beating it that way. And he took a 22-inch swish cymbal and flipped it around. And then it became that's the way you did it. Now I think most metal drummers think that that's the only way you do it. But you can actually ride on the China cymbal. So it's kind of cool. Let's see what else we got. Keith Scott says those PST-8 effects cymbals are really affordable. Yeah, I think they actually got rid of the PST-8 moniker on them, just call them PST-X now. So I think some of the earlier ones were PST-8. And matter of fact, I have a splash cymbal that is a Noiseworks 11-inch splash cymbal that was created with the first set of Paiste effects cymbals that were created back in the early 2000 teens. They had a series called the Noiseworks series where they were stacks. And Paiste tried to do stacks, but nobody really took to them. And now everybody's got a stack somewhere, it seems like. So, but the Noiseworks cymbals were another interesting sounding cymbal. I have an 11-inch. I didn't have the 18 that went with it. So, good morning, Tate. Yes, Mel Lewis. I'm invoking the name of Mel today. Nice to have you, Tate. Let's see. Adam Parsons, do you own any low volume cymbals like the Zildjian L80s or the Wuhan ORAs? I didn't even know Wuhan made them. That are fantastic. Slightly louder than the L80s, but have a better tone, not too muffled. To be honest, I don't have any of the low volume cymbals because I don't have a situation where I need them, but I've been thinking about the low volume cymbals to have a set possibly in case someday I have to move to an apartment and practice on pads or something, and then having low volume cymbals would be the way to go. But the first time I ever played anything that was like those low volume cymbals was the Zildjian Gen 16 electronic cymbals. And from that came all the other holy cymbals that we've got today that are the low volume cymbals. Now, I believe the Zildjian L80s are from that, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Sabian's got its own low frequency volume cymbals. They're like 20 dB down. They got lots of holes in them. The more holes you put in a cymbal, the more volume you take away, it seems like. So we're talking about effects cymbals. That's part of the whole thing with the effects cymbals is the holes in them. Not this one. That's a China. But the holes in the cymbal, these things, does take away from it. Just like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever played the snare drum in Guitar Center that, what is it, OPC? Is that what they're called? Or OCP? I can't remember. Ocean County Percussion, so it's OCP, I guess. They had a snare drum a couple years back that was brass and it had all these holes drilled in the shell and had like no sound, no volume. It took all the volume out of that drum. It was kind of an interesting drum, if you ask me. Not one I would buy, though. But now I guess I really haven't had a lot of experience playing them other than in the music stores. But thanks for that question, Adam. I appreciate that. Let's see. Jim says, played a gig with Steve Weiss, trombone player for Maynard's band. He loved my 20-inch swish. You got to have a swish cymbal and play with Maynard, right? Yeah. Anybody who's ever played with Maynard's band, they always had a swish cymbal. I think that's where Erskine kind of got it from. Or maybe it was the one he was playing with Stan Kenton. Stan Kenton had his own set of cymbals. I mean, I've read interviews with Peter Erskine where Erskine talked about having to play on Stan Kenton cymbals, the first big band he played with. And they had this big 26-inch ride cymbal and this huge China cymbal. I think that's where Erskine got it. But yeah, you got to have a swish cymbal if you're going to play a real jazz gig, I think. A real big band jazz gig. Let's put it that way. I think if playing a traditional bebop thing, you might not have a swish, but it's not bad to have one. A lot of guys use them still today. So that's great. That's an awesome story. Let's see what Keith's got. Earl, I know you like the X-Track stems too, but have you had a chance to mess with the free programs that are becoming popular? I've heard about the free programs, and I've never messed with any of the free programs, Keith. I would say try everything and, find what works for you. X-Track stems works for me. I had a question this morning. I'm going to probably bring it up in my next Ask Earl Anything, which probably will be next week at this time. Because I'm going to be out of town next week, which I knew was going to happen. But the question was, how do I set up clicks to start a song? And because I use Logic as my DAW, Logic has got 4. You can set it up so it'll give you 4 clicks coming into a song, and I guess it's based on time signature, because if you went in 6/8, it would probably give me 6 clicks instead of 4. But mine is set up to default at 120 quarter note, 120 4 beats, the measure 4/4. What I do with Extract Stems is I create my own click track in Extract Stem in Logic using Extract Stems drum track. And the way I do that is I bring those stems into Logic, which gives me a lot of control over the stems too, by the way. Every once in a while, I'll put a little compression on the bass. Sometimes I'll put some compression on the vocal. And by having that drum track separated, I can make a pretty nice click track some days, depending on the music, of course. So that's what you don't get with these programs that I can tell. Xtrax does not produce a click track. So you have to have a way to build a click track to utilize the drumless tracks. Otherwise, you're playing with the YouTube Rock Band stuff. And there's a ton of Rock Band free drumless tracks out there that I played a lot of my early covers on. I was just getting bored playing only rock music. And that's all they had was like heavy metal rock. It was the standard classic rock, a lot of it. But there was no rhythm track to track with. So you kind of had to dodge the track. And some of those tracks for me, I sound kind of like I'm dodging the track. Now that I've got Extract Stems and I can take the drum track, and even if I can't get a good click, I can basically keep the drum track in, lower the volume sometimes, and find pocket. And I'm a lot more locked in. So I think that's the biggest problem with those programs is how are you going to create a click track? Extract Stems being brought into a DAW makes it very simple to create a click track. And that's why I use it. So I haven't had a need to go look anywhere else. Plus, I spend the money on Extract Stems. So once a year I pay. And it's not a big deal. For the amount of covers I do, Extract Stems is nothing. It's literally nothing per song I do each year. So the problem is people ask me for can you send me the drumless track? I don't have a stereo drumless track. I have 4 separated tracks. That's what I have. That's what Extract Stems does, 4 separated tracks. So it's good for that. I don't know what the free programs do. I think they give you a stereo track, take the drums off, which you can get with Extract Stems too, but I don't do it that way. It's not how I deal with it. Yes, it was Orange County Percussion, Adam. Thank you. Let's see. Hi, Gary. Nice. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. Hi, Earl. I have watched you on 4-part series on British Made called The Art of Drumming. Oh, yeah, that's a cool thing. It had all the best drummers, worth watching if you've not seen it. The Art of Drumming came out. They tried to put it out on YouTube, and it wasn't available. It was just pieces of it. And it's actually on a different format, and I actually have a link to it. I've watched about an hour and a half of it. I think is it 4 hours or is it 2 hours? I can't remember. I think it might be 2 hours. I think I watched 3/4 of it. It's great. Stu Copeland's in it, a lot of the famous guys, Ginger Baker, a lot of clips, a lot of good stuff. So yeah, I would recommend it too if you can find it. If you put in Art of Drumming in YouTube, you will find some clips of it. But you'll have to click the link that sends you to this other site. And the other site is where you want to watch it in its entirety. So that's a great series. I love drum videos. The biggest problem now that we don't have drum videos anymore, and we have them, but we don't, is that my kids can't give them to me for Christmas. My kids used to love to buy me drum videos for Christmas. So back when it was VHS tapes too. That's how old I am. So, all right. Chad says triggering with low volume steals cymbals. Yes, you are. And that's what you did. You bought them on Amazon for $130. That is a deal. If you haven't seen any of Chadwick's recent electronic drum videos, he's got his own custom-built electronic drum kit. Very impressive, Chadwick. I got to tell you, very impressive. Of course, I built some of my own triggers early on, too, in the 80s, and after doing it a few times, I realized that guys do it better than me, so I stopped doing that stuff. Remember going down to Radio Shack and buying piezo tweeters and then taping them on my toms and then putting them underneath and putting it on a piece of wood and then putting some foam on it and trying to mount a head to it. and then sticking it in a Remo practice pad. And I did all kinds of crazy stuff to try to get a pad sound to trigger a couple things I had. I had a D4 at one point, but it's pretty funny. But you've built a very good set of drums. You should do a discussion on your drums, how you built them. You know, that's another thing. So let's see. Moises is the app to use to remove drums of separate instruments. Moises has his own click for the song you're doing with counts. That's great. Did not know that. So is that what you're using, Chadwick? Let me know that. And Eric said Moises, which creates a click if you want. Cool. So you're getting a lot of feedback, Keith. That's the program to go for. Eric says, I've been using a lot more in extract stems. Yeah, makes sense. You know, for me, once I learn something how to do it one way, I kind of get stuck in it. I mean, if you guys watch my videos, I don't tweak things very much. My templates are my templates. I will say I tweak my templates once I get the song in a mix format. Then I start messing with a little bit of EQ, a little bit of compression. I choose what tape saturation I'm going to use, that kind of stuff. I just pull presets and things like that. But extract stems makes it very easy for me to do. So I'm not going to change something that works. Just start something else and then have to remove a click. Because I assume the click gets stuck on one of the tracks. So then you're getting a mono track. I have true stereo tracks, so that's why my stuff sounds the way it does. But I'm more of a mix fanatic. You guys must realize that, because I actually get pulled down from YouTube because my mixes are too good sometimes, believe it or not. They actually they block my track where other guys get the track through, and I listen to how they're playing it, and they're playing it with a camera mic, and the track synced together in the Final Cut or whatever they're using for their video, and it doesn't sound particularly great. So YouTube lets it through, and then all of a sudden they listen to mine and they go, "Oh, that sounds like the original track. Got to shut that thing down." And I've got more videos that are blocked just because I think it sounds too good. So in the old days, I would try to remix. I don't even care anymore. It's like, oh, forget it. Just put it in the pile. I'll try to put it on Instagram. And now Instagram's blocking me for everything. So that's the other problem in life, right? I mean, so I can't win one way or the other. Let's see what else we've got. Gary Stevens. It's 4 hours done by Steve White. Oh, that's right. Steve White from Style Syndicate or something like that. Style Council, that's what it's called. English drummer. Yeah, he's a great drummer too. Awesome drummer. Good morning, CCM drummer. Thanks for checking in. Let's see. Moises. Some more about Moises. Paste in the link, the song. Paste in the link. That's interesting. What do you mean by paste in the link, Eric? Do you get a link or do you get the actual waveform? And you said you can export the click separately. Very cool. All right. And here's the guy who asked me the question about the click. Windsurf03. I think your name is Brooke, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm over 60, so you can't trust my name thing. You can confirm or deny that, Windsurf3. But yes. So Hirel just got on. I asked you about the count-in on your covers. You're the one, yes. And I watched the video where you use Pro Logic. Yep. So we were just talking about this a few seconds ago. I'll go into it one more time. When I create that click in Logic really quickly, there is a way in Logic where you push the 1, 2, 3, 4, and you hit the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the count-in, and it does a count-in. So a lot of my videos start goes 4 clicks, and then I land on 1 as the beginning of the track. It just works, I make it work. Sometimes it's 5 beats. Sometimes it's longer. It depends on how I copied the video, copy the audio. Let me tell you about how I make audio tracks. That's a little more interesting. Not just because, where am I getting all this music from is the question, right? Well, I'm not buying. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not buying all these songs I'm playing. I have a subscription to Spotify. Now, when you have a subscription to Spotify, one of the things you can do if you've got a DAW is you can route Spotify through your mixer into your DAW, and you can take any song you want in 2 tracks. And that's what I do. And usually what I do is I record all my audio in 44.1, because I had some issues early on when I would try to go 44.1 to 44.1. That's the sample rate. And I record all my music 44.1 from Spotify, and then I take the Spotify track, cut them up, keep them in a folder, and bring them in extract stems. This is a process. Extract stems, basically makes me 4 stems and 44.1, and then I bring it into Logic, and the folder I'm bringing the template I'm bringing it into in Logic is in 48. Now, some guys say, well, why would you use 48, not 41? There's a reason. And this is something I did not understand early on in video. But in video world, almost all video programs use 48K. They use the 48K sample rate. So video syncs better in 48K than 44.1. And I didn't understand that aspect of it. So when I bring it in 44.1, there's another advantage to it, is when I drop it in Logic 44.1, it doesn't try to take the tempo off of it. As a matter of fact, it always asks me, do you want the tempo? I say no. Because the way I'm really recording the tempo, it's mapped at 120, even though the song is not 120. So I have it come in, and then I can figure out using the beat mapping program, figure out the clicks for the song and lock it into my DAW. And that's how it works. And it works really well. So, and that's why I'm not going to do it any differently. Thank you, Brooke, for the question, though. That's the way it is. And I'll probably answer it again on Ask Girl Anything, because I think it's a good question. A lot of guys always wonder. Let's see. Eric asks, so whatever the song is like, let's say YouTube, you can paste that link into Moises. Oh, wow. So it takes it off of YouTube. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Does it ever tell you you can't make a song drumless in Moises? Question. I'm wondering. Moises is worth looking into. Works on your phone, and it can. Yeah. Well, it's another way of doing it. Moises costs nothing, is what you're trying to tell me, guys. You're trying to tell me to get away from extract stems. That ain't happening right now. So that's another thing to learn. I don't know about you, but learning stuff is not as easy as you might think it is. So any web link where the song may reside, you can paste it in the application and it starts the extraction. Well, that's pretty cool. All right, more Chadwick. Let's see. What's your kick drum EQ setting? Snares, same EQ as the others. Kick drum EQ setting. That's interesting. I would say the big thing about my kick drum EQ setting is I kind of boost around 80 hertz. There's kind of like a nice little curvy boost there. One of the tricks in my EQ in my bass drum is I use the Logic EQ, parametric EQ, for getting the shape I want. So I also pull out somewhere around 400-ish. I pull out like a nice scoop there because there's some mud there. And then I usually push a little bit around 3,000. So you get that little clickiness to it. But that's my baseline starting point EQ in Logic. And then it goes into, this is really the secret of my bass drum, by the way. I use a plugin called Transient Designer, SPL Transient Designer from UAD, from my Universal Audio. And that Transient Designer really gives it some punch and some pop. And then it goes from the Transient Designer into, it goes into a Neve plugin I have from UAD, the Neve channel. And there's a kick drum channel that's got compression, gating, and another EQ setting where it boosts those similar kind of boost thing. And that kind of adds the character to it. And those three plugins together make my kick drum sound. The snare drum's a little different. The snare I've got to start with a parametric Logic EQ that's set to refresh snare. If you're a Logic guy, you'll know what refresh snare is. Now, that's the bass starting point. I usually end up messing with that EQ at some point. And then I run it into a UAD, Universal Audio, what's it called? It's a different EQ. It's a very common EQ, and my head's going, I'm not looking at it. But Pultec EQ, standard Pultec EQ. and I use the punchy snare as the starting point, and then I tweak the dials there. And this is the snare drum is what I tweak the most, I will say. I tweak that parametric EQ, the Pultec EQ, then it goes into the transient designer, and then it hits my Ren compressor with a little bit of compression and pop. And that's kind of what makes that sound. The toms are basic Logic. Well, actually, they're not. I've found my own EQs for my toms, and I always have gating on the toms. And my overheads go into 2 Pultec EQs for the overheads. It's like a general overhead EQ and a Renaissance compressor just to kind of touch it in case it gets too peaky. And then everything goes through my mix bus. And the mix bus will be, it starts with the precision, precision bus compressor, usually on the rock setting. And then it goes into the Ampeg 102R tape compression. And I've got 3 or 4 tape compression settings I mess with. And then it goes into the Oxford EQ, which is kind of a sound, and it's like an audio inflator. And then it goes into a limiter. So all my stuff goes into that. And of course, there's a reverb bus, 3 reverbs I use, and a gated, a big plate, 2 big plates, and a snare plate. So there's like 3 EQs. And if you watch my last video that I put out, the one every time you go away, that take a piece of me, Paul Young video, that actually has an echo on it, and that's how we're getting the little ta-ka-ka-ka. So I went and figured out the echo and said it kind of locks with the click, and worked. So I do a lot of stuff post. Of course, that's what makes the drum sound, but it starts with those plugins already being in the template. So when I bring them in, it's just like me just kind of messing with faders and finding what everything should be, and then I go in and tweak individually if I hear something a little weird. So, CCM drummer Moises takes out the vocal and instruments, leaves the drum parts so I can get a better transcript. Well, whatever works for you, Matthew. I know you want to get it perfect and exact. You can do the same thing in extract stems. Moises premium is a few bucks per month. It's worth it. All right, you guys have figured it out. So what's a few bucks per month, Jim, is the question. That's what I want to know. Because when you take a $50 plugin like Extract Stems, that's a few bucks a month. It's really not that different. Let's see. Hi, Michael Perry. Thanks for being on the show. I do appreciate you being here today. We're talking about separating drum tracks. Yes, I tried separating tracks to the original artist's song from SoundCloud. Wouldn't do it at all. Not even recognize the song. Yeah, it probably only recognizes the majors, it sounds like to me, Moises. It probably only recognizes YouTube, Spotify, and Pro Songs, which is nice that it's not blocking it. I don't know if any of you guys have tried this. Like, I know Chadwick does this all the time. But when you do a green screen thing, when I do a green screen thing, the way I do green screen, and I've been doing a couple more green screens past couple days. You'll start to see a few of those the next couple days. Screen, I go steal YouTube from my iPad. Chadwick taught me that. I asked Chadwick, how are you getting all this video? How you do? Oh, I take it from my iPad. You just use the record feature. So I've been doing that. The problem is when I take it from my iPad and then I do an airdrop over to my files, okay, and then I bring it into Final Cut. When I bring it into Final Cut, the music is gone. They take all the music that's there on the video. It's on that video because I can go on my iPad and play it and hear the music. It's gone. And then I have to try to find a way to sync it together on that video. It's really weird. Now, I don't know if it does that on the iPad, Chadwick, when you're doing it in iMovie, but it does it in Final Cut because Apple's got this strange thing about messing with publishing and stuff. And just like YouTube and Instagram do. So I imagine you guys with Moises must be running into some issues with that. I've never run into an issue with extracts telling me they won't let me do a track. Never tells me no. So I've never had that problem because I'm not sending them a link. I'm sending them the audio file. I bring the audio file into Extract Stems. So yeah, it's an extra step for me, but I have a little bit more control over that audio file than sending a link to it. That's the way I feel about it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should give this other thing a chance, you know. Um, let's see. I did that one. Yep. Um, oh, what are you saying? You can do 5 songs a month for free on Moises? Eric, I do 5 songs a weekend. It would never work for me. 5 songs a month? Oh my gosh. That's what I'm saying. I've paid for extract stems this year. How many videos did I do this year so far? I mean, I have no idea how many videos I've done, but if I'm putting out one a day, or pretty darn close to one a day, let's say 6 a week. 6 a week for 20 weeks. I mean, crud. That's 120 videos. That's a lot. That's a lot of work. Crazy. Jim Flies 2 is telling me it is $3 a month. Okay, $3 a month's not bad. 3 times 12 is 36. I guess it's slightly cheaper than extract stems for premium. That's not a big enough difference to make me change. 5 freebies a month is not enough for me. $60 a year, that's the same price as extract stems double deuce drums. All right, let's see what Tate's got to say. Good morning, Sean Woodley. Welcome to the show. Earl, do you pretty much go through the same mixing techniques no matter what song or style you're playing to? Yes, I use the same templates. But I will say I know enough about my plugins to know like what's appropriate. So sometimes, like if you're doing a jazz song, you don't want any kind of the rocky cues. You can take them off. Sometimes if I'm doing like feathered bass drum to play like the big band stuff, or the brushwork stuff I do sometimes, I'll take all the compression and stuff off, the gating off. So it's easier to eliminate stuff when you've got a plug in there, just turn the plug in off, than it is to find what you want to turn it on. And I'm not into experimenting anymore. I used to experiment all the time, but I've really got very comfortable with what I work with. And even if I'm doing some work for somebody else, I usually start with my templates. And then I'll mess with it, you know. So that's where it comes from. But so I do pretty much mix the same way though, where I use the same setup and then I'll eliminate to get to what I want. But like, let's use the mix bus compression for an example. The mix bus compression, I've got 4 or 5 mix bus compressions I use. There's a jazz setting, there's a rock setting, there's a pop setting, there's a disco setting, there's a ballad setting. And if I'm playing a ballad, I may go to ballad. If I'm going to like more of a R&B-ish disco-y thing, I'll go to the disco setting. That'll change the compression a little bit. Same thing with the tape compression. I've got a bunch of different things I do with that. So yeah, there's some similarities, but I'm always using my ears to make changes. And I think that's the key here is when you talk about mixing, there's not like one EQ that works. Like one day, if the mic moves a little bit, it changes the way your toms sound. Like if I hit the mic in a fill and smack it, you can hear the difference sometimes. So try moving your mics around once in a while. You may find you get a better sound. Like right now, I've got my Gretsch kit kind of dialed in, and I'm really digging the tom sound. I'm using ambassador heads, coated ambassadors, and I'm using the E609s, no, E604s, excuse me, the Sennheiser E604 drum kit mics. And they're very finicky. If you're not pointing the right place, like the edge versus the center of the head, you can get a whole different vibe on your tom just by where you move your mics. So, and I don't spend a lot of time with it. Sometimes I just sit down and play and blow, and then I'm like stuck with what I messed up not thinking about that. But that's part of doing things fast that I've just come to know about myself. But great question, though. Thank you, Tate, for the question. Let's see. What's 1,000? Probably 1,000 videos this year. Is that what you're trying to tell me I've played? I don't think I've played 1,000. I'm almost at 1,000, I think. Never had any issues with Moises being able to get exact songs. Interesting. Okay. Would not allow you to put a Spotify link in. I get a lot of my songs from Spotify, Eric. I got to be honest. And then again, I would have to do the same thing where, does Moises let you put in the WAV file? And are you guys doing this only on a phone, or are you guys doing it on a website? Because Extracts is all done on my computer. I don't do anything with Extracts on my my iPad. And I can see that's why Chadwick would use it. Chadwick does everything he records on his iPad. If you are a guy that uses Final Cut and Logic, then you want something that's more easily worked from the computer. That's where Xtrax comes in for me. I mean, I think it's a pain to bring stuff over sometimes, even though I do all my movies and iPad and iPhone, and I basically, just send it over using what you call it. I've just lost my train of thought. That file transfer way AirDrop. I do it all the time. I should know it by heart now. Let's see. Let's see what you said about Spotify. I think the reason Spotify link didn't work is because it's behind the barriers being a paid subscription service. Yeah, it is a paid subscription service, and I pay for it, so I want to be able to have access to my music. The thing is, I can't take from Spotify straight into Extract Stems, but what I can do is go Spotify into Logic and make a WAV file, and then I can bring that into Extract Stems, and they don't care. So I don't think Spotify would like to know what I'm doing, but I don't think there's any bots that are listening to us on this about this topic. So, because we're pretty small potatoes, except for to WMG, right? All right. Sean's got to leave. Have a great day, Sean. Let's see what Brooke has to say. For all the supporters of Moises, can you do a count-in like Earl's? They were telling me you can do a count-in. That's what they're saying. So let's see. We've got somebody else. I don't want to butcher your name. I think it's Jurgen, and I'm not going to try your last name. Earl, what and how much cameras are you using for your videos, and how you are dialing in the lighting? The that's a great question. Thank you for asking, and thanks for being on the show today. Lighting's a mystery to me, to be honest. I just learned something about keyer and side lighting, and there's three names for three. You light from 3 points. That's the new thing I've just learned, because I bought some cheap lights on Amazon for $36 the other day. After watching Kelly Kusumato's video on his studio, he actually bought these cheap lights, and they actually work pretty well. They're not great. They're not perfect. I mean, and I think you could spend a lot more money on lighting and get a much more professional job. But if you get a small, tight environment, this lighting works great. It's got different levels of light. You got different colors if you want to use it. But the concept of lighting is you've got side lighting, you've got back lighting, and then you've got the keyer lighting, the front lighting. And that's got to be the most important thing. Like, I'm doing a terrible lighting job, by the way, right now. I've got one light right here. I've got the light over my head for my studio lighting, and that's why I've got this shadow on my face. If I had another light over here, it would kind of balance the lights out. I used to have a light over here, but I moved it. I was doing a cover, and it's somewhere else in the studio right now, so it's not here. So I didn't turn it towards me. But the idea is, I guess if I put this light like this, it might change things. See how I just changed everything? This is basically an interesting 3-point lighting effect I just did to myself, making it up on the spot. I have this little side light over here that kind of lights my board, but it's got kind of a little, it's got a gooseneck on it, basically. And the gooseneck, I turned it up. I got this light over here, and I got a light over my head and behind me, and that's backlighting. And that's helping to get rid of the shadow on my face. I look a lot better now, don't I? But how much do I know about this stuff? I know absolutely nothing. I've just been picking it up over the last 4 years. And as far as my cameras go, I use an iPhone XR. Cheapy right here. Where are you? There we go. And I use an iPad Pro 2016. Yeah. And the reason I use the iPad Pro is it's got 128 gigs of RAM, and I don't need another one right now. And the XR works fine. They've been telling me I need to upgrade my phone. I haven't done it yet. So one day I will upgrade my phone, but not today. And that's all I use. I also have a DSLR that I use once in a while. So I could use as many as 3 cameras. But I think what I do with my cameras, that I don't know if all of you do this. I know Chadwick does this a lot. But I actually move my cameras around all the time. Now I get into little ruts where I go. I like this bottom camera thing where it's like down below the hi hat looking up at me. I actually look okay in that video because my fat face doesn't look as the same as when it's coming straight on me and my fat face is there. So I hate my face. That's my problem. I'd rather you see my drums though. I love when you go looking at the drums. It's cool. Don't look at Earl. Just watch my hands and watch the drums. But that's just me. But I got this one angle from the floor that I really like that angle. But I only use it while the iPad's got power in it. Sometimes I want to do another video and I have no power on my iPad. So I actually have an extension cord. I have a 6-foot charging cable and I'll put it on a stand close to in front of the kit. And I don't like the way I look there. Now another angle I use, I've got my iPhone on a boom stand, a microphone boom stand with this rigged holder that somebody gave me for. Actually, it's the holder that came with this. There's supposed to be a holder so you can clip your on your pants, whatever we used my whole life. But I took it and I kind of drilled it and I made it so it would work. And everybody is gone. And am I gone? No, I'm here. That was weird. I hope you guys can hear me. Sorry about that, guy. I don't know what's going on. It's probably Comcast. We'll blame it on Comcast anyhow. But I like the shot where I put the camera over my head and it's actually looking down on the kit. You see less of Earl. I also have this really unique side shot. I always move it a little bit down low, sometimes high. So I think when it comes to cameras and doing videos is move the camera around, get different angles. You need 2 is really nice. You can get away with 1. I have a lot of videos with just 1. And the more stuff you can do to move the eyes, that's the other thing. Now, I will tell you there's a way in Final Cut to cut your movies really fast, and I use that. It's called multi-camera. And what you do is I sync the audio to one of my videos, then I take that synced audio one and I take it to my other camera, and then I sit there in Final Cut and I cut in real time back and forth between the 2 cameras. And I've done this with as many as 4 cameras, and it works. You got to have enough computer RAM to really pull it off. So I have 24 gig of RAM and enough hard drive space because it uses hard drive space and RAM to do this trick, but it works really well, and I get videos cut really quick. I'm not sitting there layering the video and then chopping and V'ing, and like I know a lot of guys will like sync all their videos together on top of one another like this, and then they'll chop them. And you take hours doing that. I do this thing really fast. I'm just sitting there listening to the song and click, 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 click. And then I can go back and adjust the little cuts. So if I'm like a little ahead or a little behind, or I don't like the way the crash cymbal looks, I can pull it back. And I'll do a little edit that way. So I have a very fast technique for cutting my videos too with 2 cameras for sure. Even if I put green screen in. Green screen just adds another effect. So there's a lot you can do. So I hope that gave you some ideas. Let's see. Chadwick says, Waves links, iTunes, pretty open with copy paste. That's cool. That works. Let's see what else you got. Now we are now drummers learning new skills video. Yeah, that's something we have to do, unfortunately. If you want to be on the YouTube world, you got to learn some video. I got your name right on the first time. I don't think I do it a second time. Thank you so much for telling me that. I appreciate that. Welcome, Lori Jones. Nice to have you today on the show. Let's see. Good question. Everybody liked your question. Let's see. Bald Drummer 87, which I don't know your first name, Bald Drummer 87. That's why I always go with friend. I'm looking to get a pair of 2002 Red Label Crashes. Would you recommend size-wise? Sure. A great starting point is an 18-inch 2002 Crash. Now, I will tell you the thin Crashes are really nice too. I have a 16-inch thin Crash, but I wanted a small cymbal to go with my 18-inch Giant Beat thin Crash and my 20-inch Giant Beat multi-Crash. But I bought the 18-inch Crash and 2002, and I love it. It's one of my most favorite crash cymbals I've ever had. I didn't realize how much that really works. I also have a 505 20-inch crash cymbal from the 70s. That was Danny Gottlieb's cymbal from Pat Metheny Group, which I paid probably too much money for, but bought it at Maxwell Drum Shop in New York about, I don't know, 8 years ago. But that was my first Paiste 20-inch crash. That was my first 20-inch crash cymbal ever. I always liked 19s and 18s, but I never went to a 20. Now I've got a bunch of 20s, and I've heard that the 2002 crash, 20-inch crash thin is really great. So I'd recommend that one because I've heard some such great things. I don't know if I would buy. Actually, you want to know the story about the 505? This is an interesting part of the 505 story. I went to Maxwell's Drum Shop. They had a 20-inch 2002 crash cymbal. Was Danny Gottlieb's Red Label from the 70s, from the 80s, I guess, when they went to Red Labels again. And I had a Black Label 505 crash of Danny Gottlieb's. And Danny Gottlieb used the 20-inch 2002 crash. That was the one he used. It was a little more money, but I played them together and I listened to them and I liked the 505 better. So I don't know if I could recommend the 2000 crash 20-inch without basically not being true to myself, because I've heard one, I didn't really like it. But I've heard the thin ones and I do like them. If you want a regular 20-inch crash, the Giant Beat Multi is the best 20-inch crash cymbal out there as far as I'm concerned. I've been playing it for years. It's a great ride cymbal and a crash cymbal, and I just like the way it sounds. So, but from 2002s, I would recommend the thin. And of course, I would try a 19-inch crash is a nice way to go. I've got a 16. I've never played a 17, but I've heard they're pretty nice. So I like the 2002 crashes. I like them a lot. They're great cymbals. 18's the best starting point, though. Can totally recommend that one. All right, and let's see. Chadwick Scott. My camera stands are used cymbal stands, and a camera iPhone holder for. Yeah, you're doing the same thing I'm doing. I've got like a boom mic stand that I'm using. So I do have a few camera stands, though. My son gave me a few that kind of really worked out, and I had one for the DSLR. So I've got some camera stands hanging around, but I do use some modified stands. You can actually get camera adapters for a mic stand that work really well if you need to use them. And there's all kinds of stuff you can do for mic stand with the mic stands and other adapters, like the gooseneck concept. Like I have my mic clip that I'm using for my iPhone on a gooseneck, so I can actually do this and make it sideways and do all kinds of weird things to the picture. Kind of works well. Well, guys, your questions make the show, and I'm got to the end of the questions. So if I don't have any questions, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to regroup some questions. I think we talked pretty well about extract stems today and Moises. I guess it's called Moises. We talked about 2002 crash cymbals. We talked about effect cymbals to start. This is my Paiste effect cymbal. That's where we started the day. Any other interesting questions you guys got on your mind today? I would love to talk about them. Okay, I got one. That's good. That's what I want. Let's see what Keith Scott's got. All right. If you can only use one ride cymbal from all the rides you personally own, what would you choose? Wow, that's a tough one because I am a ride cymbal nut guy. That's the problem. That is really a tough one. That's a tough question. I just bought this 2002 22-inch ride, and I really love it. But yesterday I was doing a cover on my concert tom kit, and I had the 22-inch Big Beat on there, and I left it. I've been switching it out. Since I got the 2002 ride, I've been using it for everything. So I left it alone and just left the 2002 Big Beat up there. And I got to be honest, that is probably my favorite cymbal. It's thin, but it's rideable. So it's dark for a Paiste, but it's not too dark. It's actually thinner than my Carope. And my Carope's pretty thin and washy dark. And this is kind of like 2002-ish dark. I really like that cymbal. That was probably one of my better buys, I will say. So I would say the Big Beat 2002 is my favorite cymbal because it has qualities of dark and bright. And it sits well in the mix. But I'm not a one-trick pony when it comes to ride cymbals, and I love ride cymbals. So I have a bunch. I mean, my ride cymbal collection goes from, I don't know if you guys have seen my ride cymbal video, but I have one where I'm playing Satin Doll, and a couple of my newer ride cymbals are not even in there right now. I love ride cymbals. So the Crope is really nice for certain things. It just doesn't sit in the mix in the studio. But I love playing that cymbal, and it's a jazz thing. But it doesn't cut through in the mix in the studio for some reason. I don't have another good alternate Zildjian big ride cymbal. I have a 19-inch Armand Beautiful Baby ride with 3 sizzles in it that is a beautiful ride cymbal. And if I'm going for a smaller ride sound, that works. I've got a couple Sabians, 20-inch medium HH, and I've got a 19-inch medium heavy HH from the 80s. Both of those are early 80s ride cymbals. Great, beautiful cymbals. I have an Istanbul Mel Lewis ride cymbal. It's actually an Istanbul Mahet, which isn't supposed to have Mel Lewis's name on it, but does before they got sued to take it off. So I got one of those, which I can't tell you how cool that cymbal sounds. That's just really dark and beautiful jazz cymbal. Beautiful jazz cymbal. So I've got some really nice B20 cymbals, but I've been favoring my Pisces. I also got a 24-inch Giant Beat, which is huge, and it's a glassy, beautiful ride. And I got a couple flat rides. I got a 18-inch Sabian HH at Thigpen flat ride, and I got a Pisces traditional flat ride, 18-inch. So I got lots of ride cymbals, but I think the 2002 Big Beat would be the one. Great question. Thank you. Lori Jones, I used the 16-inch 2000 Thin Crash in my setup. Yeah, I love that cymbal. All right, Brooke, thanks for what you do. Thank you, Brooke. Thanks for being on. Have a great day, man. I appreciate you showing up. How was Liza this week down there? I don't think that question's to me. Who's that to, Chadwick? Elsa. You mean the hurricane? Oh, the hurricane did nothing to me. Is that what we're talking about? Let me tell you about hurricanes in Florida. I can talk about this. I'm an expert at this now. I've been down here 20 years. If the hurricane is not coming to your coast and it's not planning on coming to your coast, and you hear there's a hurricane and you say, is it coming towards us? And they say no, you don't watch it. So I did not. Elsa hit the west coast of Florida. So it came up through the Gulf. And it got my mother-in-law's side, so she's over there. But she's in a good place, and my sister-in-law lives over there. They basically had to bear down on it. But for me, it didn't hit. And then I think it went up through the Gulf to Georgia, I believe. That's where it was going. So I think it's heading your way. Are you getting that, Chadwick? You getting that right now? So, interesting. Do you own more rides than hi-hats or crashes? No, I don't know about that. Let me see. Ride cymbals. I have hi-hat cymbals. Hi-hats, I have a bunch of pairs of hi-hat cymbals. I have one set of Sabian hi-hats, 13-inch AA regular hi-hats. I used to have 2, but that's another long story. I have Zildjian. I have a 14-inch New Beats, and I've got 14-inch Coropes. And I've got a set of KZ 13-inch hi-hats that my son-in-law has right now. And then my Pisces are 14-inch Rudes that I've had forever. I've got a set of the light-heavy Dimensions 13-inch Pisces that I rarely play. And then I've got my 505s, medium. And I've got a set of 15-inch Giant Beats. And now I've added to my 505 collection that 2000 Sound Edge bottom. So now I've got like 3 different sounds with my 505s, or with all my Pisces 14-inch cymbals. I can just mix and match with that bottom. And I also have got a flat Sabian bottom, which is a flat hat Sabian 13-inch bottom, which I bought for $30 at Guitar Center one day. And that sometimes goes on. It's very crisp. It's super crisp. It's so crisp that it's ridiculous, actually, how crisp the flat hats are. So, but I think crash cymbal wise, I think I may have more crash cymbals, to be honest, because I've got 15s, bunch of 16s. Bunch of 16s I use for hi-hats, too, by the way. I mean, I rarely play the 16 Zildjians for anything but hi-hats. I've got this wild Istanbul ride. I forgot about that 16-inch ride. It's a Pasha ride. It's a 16-inch ride cymbal that I use as a bottom hi-hat cymbal with the K 16-inch dark crash or the A Zildjian medium thin crash that I got at a Danny Serafin clinic, or the HH 16-inch medium thin crash. So I have 3 more sets of 16-inch hi-hats I look at it as, more than crash cymbals. And then I've got some 17s, 18s, 19s. So I don't know. I got over 50 cymbals. I'm out of control. All right. Don't hit me up. Anybody else got a question? Any questions? Any more questions, guys? Your questions make the show. I can see you guys. Hey, I'm at an hour and I'm kind of running out of steam today. So if you guys don't come up with a question in the next 2 minutes, Earl Baby's going to call it a day. And you know what? Maybe that's what needs to happen sometimes. I had a lot of fun with you guys. I had a lot of fun with Jim last week. I've had a lot of fun with Tate and Chadwick on other shows. If you guys want, any of you guys want to be on the show and want to talk about your drums or want to talk about your drumming, shoot me a line, leave a comment on one of my videos. We'll find a way to get in touch. I would love to bring other people on this show. I always have more fun when I have somebody to talk to. I like talking, with the chat, and I'm glad we had a lot of chat today. It's always fun. But in actuality, it's better to have somebody's voice talking back to you, because I don't read really well. My glasses really don't help me some days. One more from Lori Jones. It looks like, and this will probably be close to the last one. And Tate, thank you appreciate having a listen while packing for today's gig. Have a great gig, Tate. Have fun. Lori Jones, do you always listen to the cymbals before buying? In the old days, you always went in the store and bought them. I would say that today there's different ways to listen. With Peisty cymbals, I don't have to. And Keith Scott, have a great day. Have a lot of fun. With Peisty cymbals, I listen online, and I usually get pretty darn close to Peisties are pretty exact cymbals. They're exact matches, and that's the whole thing. The problem, they're not as complex as the B20 cymbals. A lot of guys don't like that. I've had lots of complex cymbals, and I love the consistency of Peisties. So my Peisty cymbals, I don't, but if I'm buying a Zildjian, I usually do. Let's put it that way. Sabians, I usually do. Listen to them. So I think that's the best practice, is to get into the idea of listening to them, because what they send you may not be exactly, and if you're buying Zildjians, you have to do that. I always had to do that. So thank you, Adam, for being here today. CCM Drummers gets the last question. Last question is, were you able to talk to Danny at the clinic? Yes, I was able to talk to Danny Serafin. I won a cymbal. He signed that, and he signed a book, and I got to say hi to him and give him a hug and tell him what an inspiration he was to me, in a long line of other people. It wasn't a long line. It was actually, the clinic was kind of lame, actually, in that there was only probably about 20 people there. But it was good for me. I won the cymbal, and I was sitting in the front row, and I yelled, "Make me smile," because I knew exactly what he was going to do. But yeah, I was able to say hi to him. That was a highlight for me. Getting to meet my hero, Danny Serafin, was a highlight. So I will say that was really cool. That was 2011. All right. Well, guys, thank you all for being on the show. Next week will be Ask Girl Anything. Thank you all for being here. And until 2 weeks, we'll do another one of these live ones. Maybe we'll have a guest. Everybody have a great Saturday. Thank you all for being here. Take care, guys. Bye.